Alright, it is day 2 of How Many Games Can I Beat in a Year? Game number 4, Mega Man X. A game I have beaten many times, so I think it fits well with the 3 categories I have for if a game is viable. In terms of familiarity, I'm mostly familiar with the game. I've beaten it many times, but it has been quite a while since I was playing and beating this game regularly, so I may not remember every single detail, but I should remember enough to get me through the game. As far as length, it's pretty short, just the eight Mavericks, and then the 4 Sigma stages. And then being familiar with the game makes the difficulty go down, because this game is not necessarily a super easy game, but it becomes a lot easier when you're fully upgraded. So since I should know where all the power-ups are, or at least most of them, it shouldn't be much of a problem. Obviously, you could do this game a lot shorter if you did any percent instead of 100%, so if you went for just absolutely no upgrades. But that makes the game... that would make the game unviable for me. I don't think I could beat the game without any power-ups, because the game wants you to get power-ups. I think, like, if you get no heart tanks, I think the final boss is a one-hit kill. This might be one of those days, though, where I don't make too much progress. Because I pretty much only have an hour and a half before I have to go to work, and I don't know if I can really do much after work, but we'll see. I could have tried to go for a super short game, because there are some really short games I can do, but I had to go for something with a bit more length. I don't think this will take more, or that much more than an hour, really. So I should have plenty of time to finish it. But yeah, and my SNES was already hooked up, so may as well continue doing an SNES game. Some of the other shorter games I could do, I would have to set up the Xbox, and I didn't feel like doing that, because oh, actually, now that I look at my console setup, it's actually just straight up right there, and probably mostly hooked up, except the controller, the trip cord fell off. So I could have actually done that, but literally sitting right in front of me. I need to get a better setup for my consoles, though. They're just kind of stacked haphazardly. I do like consoles, though, that you can easily stack. Like, you can put anything on, you know, an Xbox, because it's fairly flat. It's a little rounded in some areas, but makes for a good console to place on the bottom, whereas the slim PS3, you know, anything will slide off of that thing. That is going to be one awkward thing. There are other PS3 games I definitely can do. So far, the only PS3 game I did do was Rough Trigger, but that wasn't a PS3 game, that was a PS2 game I was playing on PS3, which I just realized I made a big deal about that I bought the console for the game and never explained why I bought the console for the game, but Wasn't just for the game. I needed a different PS3 anyway, because my other one was kind of messed up. And plus I collect consoles, so I was going to want a slim PS3 anyway. So it wasn't like I bought the console entirely just for a bad PS2 game. But it was partially for that, because if you... I found out you can download Rough Trigger from PS2 Classics on the PS3. And generally speaking, especially for PS2, playing a PS2 game on the PS3, whether it's through backwards compatibility or downloading it, it's generally going to have faster loads. And the faster loads on Rough Trigger saves a lot of time over the run. Especially because I don't know if you can on a PS2 Classics, on a downloaded PS3, if you can disable the memory card. Because if you don't play with memory card in Rough Trigger, it actually can save a bit of time, since it won't save every time you beat a level. But the problem comes from, for whatever reason, if you beat level 6 and you don't have the memory card, the game has a very high chance of crashing. And that would kill a bunch of runs on playing it on PS2 over PS3. But on PS3 you don't have to worry about that, because again, I don't know if you can change the having a memory card or not. But the loads are faster anyway. But you actually can prevent that crash if you, after you beat level 6, if you plug in the memory card, wait till level 7 starts loading, then you can take out the memory card. And it's so weird that that happens, because the game does not save if you put a memory card in between those levels. It, like, won't save, so it's, like, not the... It not being able to save is not the problem, so I don't know what is the problem with it. Do I go Flame Mammoth next? I think I go Flame Mammoth. That's again, like, I would, no hesitation, go to the next level if this was like 10 years ago. But I haven't played this game enough recently to fully remember the route. It's a little awkward to do the double tap to dash, but I probably will use it because I'm not very used to clawing the controller. Although, I don't know, is Flame Mammoth really the best next pick? Because, yeah, I can get the Heart Tank, but I'll need to come back to do the, Sub-Tank and the Light Capsule, right? I don't think I go Flame Mammoth next, actually. I feel like I go Storm Eagle. Right? Wouldn't Storm Eagle make more sense? Not in weakness order, because Spark Mandrill, I'm just realizing, is the weakness for... is weak to Chill Penguin's weapon. But, in terms of upgrades, because you can get the Heart Tank just with the dash. You can get... I don't think you need any special upgrades for the Light Capsule in Storm Eagle. And I don't think you need it for the Sub-Tank. I think Storm Eagle has all three of those. But yeah, Flame Mammoth was definitely a bad pick. At least, though, I think Flame Mammoth is kind of an easy fight. Because really, the weaknesses are kind of only super important for depending on how hard the boss fight is. Like, I think without a weakness, like Sting Chameleon can be just really, really difficult. Or I was just super young and didn't know how to play the game back then. But I always remember really struggling on Sting Chameleon without his weakness. But I don't feel like I would need to go Spark Mandrill after Chill Penguin, because there are some easy fights that you can do without the weakness. Like Flame Mammoth's pretty easy, because he's really slow. And his attacks, I mean, it doesn't shoot much, and since it's a big arena, it's super easy to get out of the way. But Storm Eagle's also a really easy fight, and I really feel like I should have gone Storm Eagle after Chill Penguin and not Flame Mammoth. I guess I was just thinking, I got a little confused because you can get that Heart Tank after beating Chill Penguin. So I kind of thought, oh, that means Flame Mammoth's next, but no, I needed the helmet to get the Light Capsule. I don't think you need the helmet for the sub-tank. If I'm going to have to go back to Flame Mammoth anyway, I'll get that there. Oh, that's right. Flame Mammoth is actually, would probably be the last one you want to fight, right? If you start with Chill Penguin, because Flame Mammoth wouldn't have a corresponding weakness to anyone, because he's effective against Chill Penguin, so his weapon's going to be pretty useless until we get to the... Well, no, it'll be useful in different levels, but as far as boss weaknesses go, that's not going to be relevant until the boss rush at the end of the game. Which is not a boss rush in this game, is it? I mean, there's like different bosses in a row, but it's not the traditional Mega Man, you just fight the teleporters and you fight every Robot Master or Maverick once. I think this one does it a little differently. And honestly, the Sigma stages I'm a lot less familiar with than the Maverick stages. You'll have to kind of remember those, but should be fine. Let's see, is that where the Light Capsule is? How do you... I guess I could do this, but it's gonna be kind of slow, but I don't want to risk dying. I know that game overs are super, super bad in this game. It doesn't really matter if I'm a bit worried about this cartridge. I don't know if this cartridge like fully works. Because I actually have 3 copies of this game, and I've never really tested all of them. I know, that's just for an extra life. So I'm a little worried if this cartridge isn't good, then it might crash, but honestly, there's a password system, so it really doesn't matter if the game crashes. If the cartridge stops working, because I can try just one of my other cartridges and just put in the last password I got. Oh, did I accidentally pass the Light Capsule? That's not gonna respawn. Dang it. That's 2 levels I'm gonna have to replay. And I can't even just go straight back to Flame Mammoth because I need the light capsule that I accidentally skipped. Well, it's not like the level's super long anyway. And you don't have to refight the Robot Masters. And if I can remember who I go after Storm Eagle. I feel like I do Flame Mammoth after Storm Eagle. Yeah, definitely. Because not only do you need the light capsule from Storm Eagle to get the light capsule in Flame Mammoth stage, but also Flame Mammoth is weak to Storm Eagle's weapon. I completely forgot that that was the case. So I kind of knew Flame Mammoth Storm Eagle as part of the beginning of the route, but I forgot the exact order. Also, I guess I just really don't know how to deal with this first section if I'm not going for the heart tank. So, where that extra life was where I kind of thought the light capsule was. So I just need to know, is it actually before or after? I don't think it's down there. No way, it could be. I think it's, I want to say it's after, actually. Yeah, I think the problem was I went up here, and I think you go down. Yeah, there it is. Honestly, I probably should have used Flame Mammoth's weapon there. And I do want to go back and go ahead and get the extra stuff from Flame Mammoth stage, even though we'll be replaying a level. Because the... Well, actually, I guess that's not even true what I was going to say. But I do need the... being able to charge up special weapons. To get the heart tank in the Boomerkawanger stage. And then just getting all the sub-tanks as early as possible will be useful, just so they can start filling up, because I'm probably going to need them for the final boss. Great, now I don't know if I can get it. Yeah. I don't think any of the weapons I have will do anything. Although I've always hated about that section, if you accidentally break too many blocks and then fall down, you just can't get back up. But to be fair, I don't really know what this level's like if you haven't already beaten Chill Penguin. I've known the route for this game a very long time, so I've always done Chill Penguin first. I don't think there's ever been a time I've played this game without going Chill Penguin first. So I don't know if that's like easier to do before. Or if it just always is kind of awkward to do. Probably should have already been going up. Probably didn't need to go all the way to the right just to go all the way back left. But whatever. Again, there's definitely a lot you can do. To be more efficient and beat this game a bit quicker. Obviously, I could have researched the order beforehand, and if I could have gone Storm Eagle, then Flame Mammoth, you know, looked up where all the upgrades are, so I didn't forget like where the Storm Eagle capsule was. But in terms of how long I have to complete this challenge, it's not a super big deal. That's actually really interesting. Because this, you go all the way to the boss room. Well, actually, first let me figure out where am I going next. I can go back to Chill Penguin and get the Heart Tank real quick. Is that all? There's no sub-tank in Chill Penguin, I don't think. Would next be Spark Mandrill? No, because I want Boomer Kawanger's weapon first. Who's Boomer Kawanger weak to? He's weak to Launch Octopus, right? But then Launch Octopus is weak to Armored Armadillo. But Armored Armadillo is pretty difficult without Spark Mandrill's weapon, so I probably will just go back to Spark Mandrill Sage. I'll go back to Chill Penguin first, just to go and get the upgrade, you know? Make it a bit easier to go through each consecutive level. And yeah, again, I could do it more efficiently if I didn't do so much backtracking, but probably fine. I do think, though, in terms of familiarity and difficulty, that is kind of what makes Mega Man games kind of interesting. Because a lot of Mega Man games, I think, are only easy if you're familiar with them and you already know what you're getting into and how to deal with things that come up. It's definitely different for each Mega Man game. Like, I would say Mega Man 1, like, you kind of have to be already familiar with. To make that game kind of easier. I actually thought this one was the further one. Oh well. There's some tricky stuff in Mega Man 1 if you don't know what you're doing, and especially if you don't know the pause glitch for Yellow Devil. And then this game I think is pretty difficult if you're not familiar with it. And then honestly, X3 is probably still difficult even if you do know what you're doing. You have to be super, super familiar with Mega Man X3 to make that game easier. But then honestly, Mega Man 6, you can play blind and it wouldn't be that difficult. So I don't know exactly what Mega Man games I will end up doing. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be doing... Am I missing anything back here? I know there's a sub-tank, but it's... No, the heart tank's later. And there's only 4 light capsules, so if I can just remember where the last one is... I mean, other than the Hadouken, but I'm not getting the Hadouken because this isn't a strict 100% playthrough. And I don't think I'm gonna really need the Hadouken. Like, sure, it could be useful, but I don't even remember how you actually do it. But as far as other Mega Man games, I could probably do Mega Man 1 if I use the pause glitch. At least. Because there's only just like a little bit of awkward platforming and like Iceman stage and Gutsman stage, but it's not too bad if you use the Magna Beam. I just don't know that I'm super familiar with the Wily levels. And then I'm not very familiar with like the end game of Mega Man 5, but I think Mega Man 5's generally pretty easy. It's at least pretty easy to get through the Robot Masters. And then I'll definitely be doing Mega Man 6. Because Mega Man 6 is a very easy game, especially with the Rush Jet adapter. And it's also my favorite Mega Man game, because the Rush Jet adapter just makes the game so much more fun than any other Mega Man game. Because, like, Rush Jet in Mega Man 3 is really overpowered, right? But is it really fun, if you think about it? Like, yeah, it's really good. But it's kind of just, you get to the part of the level you don't want to play with, like, invisible blocks, or disappearing blocks and stuff. And you just kind of use it there and skip that section, you know? I think the Rush Jet adapter is more fun because it definitely makes sections easier, but it doesn't just skip the sections. It's a different way of navigating those sections, but you're still doing the platforming. Whereas I feel like with Rush Jet in Mega Man 3, it's kind of a bit too overpowered, and then just kind of sucks too much in 3 and 4. But as far as other Mega Man games go, I probably won't do too many classic games past 6, because I'm very much not familiar with like any of 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 11. Maybe 11 could be possible, but I don't know. The further on you get, the more they tried to specifically make Mega Man games really difficult, because there's, for whatever reason, people think Mega Man was always this like super difficult, hardcore platform challenger. A few of the Mega Man games are. X3 is, Mega Man 3 is, Mega Man 4. But if you play a lot of the Mega Man games, like, not all of them are this, like, super difficult, hardcore gamer challenge. 6 is pretty easy, 5's fairly easy, 2 is honestly really easy. And then there's only, like, some parts of 1 are tricky, right? But not all of 1 is tricky. Like, Cutman stage is not that bad, Bomb Man's not a difficult fight. So I feel like later on they kind of misinterpreted what Mega Man was and kind of just tried to make it really hard, whereas I don't think that's really a good... It's not accurate to what Mega Man was, I think. As far as some of the other classic games, I might do 1, I might do 5, and I might do 2. I'm not super familiar with Mega Man 2. But, 2's not that hard of a game. It's probably one of the easier classic Mega Man games. I would still say 6 is easier than 2. But I remember going through a lot of the classic Mega Man games not too long ago. And I didn't have really any problems with 2. So for classic games, it'll probably be 1, 2, 6, and maybe 5. I probably won't do 3 or 4. I mean, I could probably do 3, but 3 is fairly difficult. It's got some hard Robot Masters, and then the stupid Gemini Man stage revisit where you have to use the Rush Marine. That level's just what really makes me not want to play Mega Man 3 again. And for the most part, I do really like Mega Man 3. It's just that one level just really makes me not want to play it. That's probably it for the classic games. As far as X games go, I really don't know that there are many viable X games, unless... I mean, if we're counting, I guess it kind of depends on how much of an ending an ending feels like for it to be a satisfying, definition of beating the game. Because you can argue in Super Paper Mario there's a bad ending. You just, tell Merlin at the beginning of the game that you're not going to get the pure hearts and save the world. You just tell him that like 3 times and you lose. But that's not a bad ending, because I think it just says game over. It doesn't say the end. It just says game over, and then you have to restart. So I wouldn't really argue that that's a bad ending. But X5 does have a bad ending, right? If the cannon doesn't work? And there's a random chance the cannon will work just the first time. Because you can try the cannon anytime you want. They want you to get all the pieces, but getting the pieces just ups the chance of it working. I'll need to look into that. I think even if I have to get all the pieces, I actually do think X5's not going to be too bad. I don't remember that being a super difficult game, especially compared to like X3 and X4. I do need to also be aware of what time it is. I still got an hour before I have to do anything else. Yeah, I mean, that should be plenty of time. We're almost done with the Maverick stages. It's what, just this, Boomer Quanger, Sting Chameleon? But I don't know if you can just beat the first level, instantly fire the cannon, and then lose, get the bad ending. I mean, if it's still an ending, if it still rolls the credits, I would say that counts as beating the game. Because a bad ending is still the end of the game. Let me see. I've got 5 lives. I'm gonna run trying to beat him once without his weakness. Just so in case I die, I can fight him with full health and full ammo instead of having to do one attempt with full ammo, half health, and then one attempt with full health, half ammo. Yeah, and then I won't do anything past X5 probably. I mean, I guess it depends on how easy people say the games afterwards are. I think generally speaking, X6 is considered pretty difficult, especially because you have to know the exact route or else you can get soft locked at a certain point. So I would need to be very prepared to do X6 before I could attempt it. Do people say X7's difficult? People say X7 sucks, but is it difficult? Because I don't know about that one. And then I don't know about X8 either. And then I'm probably not going to do any of the Zero games. I think the Zero games are fairly difficult unless if I wanted to play the Zero collection and do easy scenario, then maybe those could be viable, but there's still some pretty tricky sections in at least Zero 1, from what I remember. I don't remember like anything about the Zero games, which is weird because those were actually the first Mega Man games I ever played. Was all 4 Zero games before I ever played X1 or at least significant amounts of the classic games. I had played like bits and pieces of Mega Man 1 and 2 back in the day on like weird Flash websites. So some of the classic games, some of the X games are probably viable, and then there's also the handheld games. I think Extreme 1 and maybe Extreme 2 are probably viable. And then a lot of the original Game Boy games are probably pretty viable, right? At least Mega Man 2 on Game Boy. Even though the music in that game is enough to drive anyone insane, especially if you were to play the whole game with nothing but that going on. That can be a little rough. But still, that's a very easy game. That's like an hour to beat, even if you're not very familiar with the game. And then maybe some of the other Game Boy Mega Mans. And then is that all 4 Mega Man games? Because there's the Battle Network games and the Star Force games, but those are like RPGs, so no way those are going to be viable. Because those are probably pretty long, and it's very easy to get lost in some of the Battle Network games. The Legends games are probably a bit too long. Plus, you probably need to be already familiar with the Legends games to make those any sort of quick. That's probably it for Mega Man, unless if I feel like maybe I can do one of the other like classic games or X games without much. Without too much difficulty or taking too long. But those would be like much later in the challenge when I'm more so running out of games, because there's a lot of games in a lot of different series that I feel like would be more viable first off. That's the thing, is like a lot of SNES games are probably quite a bit shorter than any like later games on different platforms. But sometimes they can be really difficult, and if they're really difficult, then you might spend a lot more time. Just trying to beat the game than if you had done a longer game that's easier. Which I do need to check into, like, some, like, Wii 3D and 2D platformers, like, kind of that era, and see how long some of those games are. Because like, Kirby's Return to Dreamland would be really easy to do. I don't think that's a hard game at all, but how quick is that game? There's like, what, 8 worlds? And it's probably longer levels than, say, Dreamland 3. So I don't know. I also need to get a working copy of New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Because that game's probably pretty short, especially if you use the cannons. Right, I forgot about the cannons. Because there's no, like, upgrades or anything you need to be able to beat, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. And if you use the cannons, that makes it pretty easy. Or pretty quick, rather, because you just go to whatever cannon skips the most worlds. Yeah, seeing like how long are some of those games would definitely be good to know. But definitely a lot of Kirby games are probably pretty viable. Like, especially the like really early ones. I mean, Kirby's Dream Land, that takes 20 minutes at most. Dreamland 2 is probably about an hour, which don't want to have to play Dreamland 2 again, because that game honestly is not very good. I do not like Dreamland 2 much. Superstar should be very short. Superstar Ultra is a bit on the longer side, because not only do you have to do through the arena, like in original Superstar, which means going through Spring Breeze, Dynablade, Great Cave Offensive, Milky Way Wishes, and the arena, and I don't know if you're required to do Gourmet Race or not, but Gourmet Race is 3 levels, so it's not like it's that big of a deal. But then if you do Superstar Ultra, not only are you doing all of those again, but then you also have to do Return of the King, or Revenge of the King, rather. Or is it Yeah, Revenge of the King. And then you also have to do Meta Nightmare Ultra. You have to do the True Arena. And is there anything else? Hello, can I dash? But still, you know, even if it's not that many levels, really, or many extra things, Revenge of the King is pretty much the same length as Spring Breeze, except maybe a little longer, because some of the bosses probably take a bit longer. And then True Arena is honestly shorter than the arena because you do less fights. You just have to make sure you can beat it. It really is Meta Nightmare Ultra that makes it such a longer game than normal. Because Meta Nightmare Ultra is, I think, every level it's every level from Spring Breeze, Dynablade, Great Cave Offensive, Revenge of Meta Knight, I think Revenge of Meta Knight, and Milky Way Wishes. So you're pretty much all those game modes that you already did, you have to do them again. And there's different things that can make them longer or shorter in Meta Nightmare Ultra. There's generally no cutscenes in any of them, so you're not being constantly stopped in Revenge of Meta Knight like you would be in the normal game. And you don't pick the levels in Milky Way Wishes, so you're not menuing as much. And then some of the boss fights can be quicker if you have the Mach Tornado built up. Plus, you get the speed up. Which can let you run through pretty quickly. So it's not necessarily the exact same length, but it is still fairly long. It's like 30-something minutes in-game time. Oh, I'm missing 2 sub-tanks. What's the other sub-tank I'm missing? I got the one in Flame Mammoth and the one in Storm Eagle. There's one in this level. And then where's the last one? I don't know that I need it necessarily, but it'd be good to remember where it is. In case I do. Is it an Armored Armadillo stage? I feel like it's an Armored Armadillo. And I missed it. But how do you get it? It's like you go backwards at one section, I think. I don't remember, but I want to say that's where it is. I may not need it, though. I mean, if I game over on Sigma... I think you can just exit, right? Because it gives you a new password, so I don't see why it wouldn't... like, try and save your progress. But I think this game doesn't I don't think it's a gauntlet like the Wily stages and some of the older games were. If you game over, I think you just do the next level you were on. So I don't think it should be too much of an issue. I do think, though, this is like one of the most annoying parts in the game platforming-wise. This like section in Sigma 1. Not this section specifically, but the section coming up right before you get into the fortress. So what I normally do, whoops, I have to plug my laptop in. Oh, I didn't mean to use that. Right then, at least. Oh, I didn't know it didn't last that long. Okay, well, don't die by jumping off the edge. Okay. Really trying to dash. Luckily, you can kind of just cheese this section, though. Because what makes that section hard is it's not the platforming, it's the, like, enemies that come and try and hit you off. But I think that's really the, like, only kind of annoying part of the Sigma stages, at least platforming-wise. I actually kind of forgot about the Vile fight. Again, I'm not quite as familiar with the Sigma stages as I am the Maverick stages, so I don't like really remember what bosses are coming up. I know Vile's here. But you have to take a lot of damage here, right? I think like at the beginning of the game you can't actually beat him here. But I don't want to like just purposefully die just in case that's not how it is. I think that's how it is though, because you get like the... Yeah. Let's see, it's either Sigma 2 or Sigma 3 that's the eye guy. Or maybe even Sigma 1. I don't know if... I don't know if this is the end of this level. And then I don't remember what Vile's weakness is. Oh, it's actually a homing torpedo. Kind of remembered that as soon as I tried to switch weapons. I don't know if it's his main weakness, but it definitely does quite a bit of damage. Plus, I mean, it literally homes in on him. Pretty useful. That's what I always liked about a lot of the classic Mega Man games and the X games. A lot of games will try and do weakness based on like what type of weapon they use, you know? And this game does that as well. Cho Penguin is weak to Flame Mammoth's weapon, because obviously something ice is going to be weak to fire. But sometimes they do it in the Mega Man games. They actually do it where it's kind of based on like what the weapon does and how the enemy moves. So like the eye enemy in one of the Sigma stages, it's a lot easier to hit him with Sting Chameleon's weapon than with other weapons. And he's weak to Sting Chameleon's weapon, which I think makes a lot of sense for how the boss is designed. Oh, is this... This level's got Bow Spider, right? We're thinking Bow Spider as a kid was like super difficult. He's probably not that hard now. But I always hated Bow Spider. I did though always like how they had the where you refight all the Mavericks at the end of the game. Because that means you can actually use all their weaknesses. Because obviously the first boss you fight, you're never gonna have their weakness. And sometimes you just try and fight a boss to see if it would work out. And maybe you don't have their weakness, but you can still beat them because it's just a fairly easy boss. Like, in Mega Man 6, I always go after Plant Man first. But I don't necessarily need to fight the person that Plant Man's weapon is effective against, because Nightman's also really easy, even without his weakness, so I can just go Nightman next. Because I know I can beat him fairly easily. I'm gonna actually use a sub-tank, because I don't want to die. That's always the hardest part, is remembering how to actually use the sub-tank on the menu. It's Y. And then when you get to the end of the game, you do have everyone's weakness, so you can use... At least fight them once with their weakness. Alright, Sigma 2. See if I can remember what Sigma 2 is. Sigma 2 is the one where you fight... Oh, it's one of these levels. This is very similar to... is it Wily 2 or Wily 3 in Mega Man 6? There's a very similar part to this, with all these rotating platform, or moving platforms like this. Which, can end up being a very fun section. Normally I don't really like platforming sections like that, because they kind of stress me out. But, the one in Mega Man 6, is actually really fun because you have the Rush Jet Adapter. And again, the Rush Jet Adapter just makes Mega Man 6 so much fun. And then you can actually fight Chill Penguin with his weakness, which is Flame Mammoth's weapon. It is kind of weird, though. Oh, I didn't know you could stun lock him like you can Spark Mandrill. It is kind of weird, though, that they make Chill Penguin weak to Flame Mammoth's weapon. So Chill Penguin becomes easier if you've already fought Flame Mammoth. But then Flame Mammoth's stage becomes easier if you beat Chill Penguin. It's kind of like, what do you want to be easier, the boss or the stage? And really, I definitely think you want Flame Mammoth stage to be easier, because I think Lava in this game is a one-hit kill. And then I actually use Storm Eagle's weakness, which is Stink Chameleon's weapon. But Flame Mammoth and Chill Penguin are both not that difficult boss fights, but Lava, I think, is a one-hit kill in this game. So, beating Chill Penguin first just really makes Flame Mammoth stage so much easier. I didn't even double check to make sure I got all the heart tanks or light capsules. What boss is this? This is the Eye Guy, which is also Stink Chameleon's weapon. This fight actually kind of sucks though, because of this part. Actually, I guess it's not that bad, except I forgot about this. Come on, dude, at the last hit. I still have plenty of Stink Chameleon's weapon. I guess I should have used a sub-tank. Was it really worth dying there to save on a sub-tank that I can grind for? Realized after I switched away from Homing Torpedo, I could have just... He had 1 HP left. It would have been way easier just to shoot one Homing Torpedo than to have tried to get him with the Mega Buster. I don't know if it's this controller or what. I feel like some of my inputs, though, aren't being read properly. Like, I was mashing the shoot button sometimes, and he just wasn't shooting. I don't know if that's the thing with the game and how it processes button inputs. And like if it maybe has trouble doing multiple button inputs at the same time. And so since I was jumping, it was having trouble like reading both at the same time. For what? But I mean, maybe it's this controller. This is an SNES. I'm playing on an actual Super Nintendo, not Virtual Console or emulator or anything. But I'm not actually using an SNES controller, I'm actually using a Super Famicom controller. Because the Super Famicom controller does work with the SNES. And I've got like 4 Super Famicom controllers, and I only have 2 SNES controllers, and one of the SNES controllers doesn't work very well. And I didn't ever bother to mark or remember which one was the one that doesn't work well. So it's just way easier just to plug in a Super Famicom controller. I'm pretty sure all my Super Famicom controllers work fine. So it's way easier just to plug in a Super Famicom controller than fighting with trying to figure out what the good SNES controller is. I do think for the most part, I don't know which I really prefer of the SNES or Super Famicom controller. Definitely have their differences. All the Super Famicom buttons are rounded. They don't have the indented ones like the SNES does. I don't think that really bothers me. Either way, I don't think having the dipped in buttons really does anything for me. I don't mind if they all feel the same. But I also don't think I'd mind if they felt different. I don't think that would bother me. But then I definitely like how the Super Famicom controller looks more. Having just each button be a different color is definitely aesthetically more pleasing than just purple and lighter purple, like the SNES. But there's definitely one thing that the SNES controller has that's way better than the... Oops, let's see, wrong weapon. I need Boomer Kuwanger's weapon, right? No, Armored Armadillo. If there's one thing the SNES controller does do better than the Super Famicom controller, at least the Super Famicom controllers I have, I don't know if there were any different versions or anything, but the SNES controller has a way longer cable than the Super Famicom. Super Famicom's cable is really, really short, which I can use it because I'm like right next to my SNES. But if I were any further away, I would have to use the SNES controller just so it'd be able to reach. There's still like a real boss at the end of this level, right? It's not just the boss rush. I can't think of what the boss is. Unless if it's the one boss that I kind of think... You can do this, right? You can become invincible and just go over the spikes, yeah. I don't know, the boss I'm thinking could be here is one that I also think might actually be that I'm thinking of an X3 boss fight. Or the X3 boss fight I'm thinking of is just similar to an X1 boss fight. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like there's a boss fight here that's very similar to the like bit and bite mixture boss fight in X3. Well, really, with the X games outside of X1, it really is just for X2. It is just I don't know the sub-tank and heart capsule locations. Okay, yeah, this is the boss that I was thinking it was, but I think there's a very similar looking boss in X3, and I was confused. I didn't know if this boss was in this game, or if it was in X3, or if there's just similar bosses in both. I think there's similar bosses in both, though. But yeah, I don't know the sub-tank and heart tank locations as well in X2 as I do X1. And honestly, of the three SNES Mega Man X games, I am least familiar with X2. I've played X3 way more than X2. Like, I would say I probably am 5 times more familiar with X3 than I am X2. And then I'm 100 times more familiar with X1 than I am X3. But I've only ever beaten X2 and X3 a handful of times. I don't know why I played X3 so much more than X2. I definitely agree that there are some issues with X3. Like, X3 is not a perfect game. I don't really get the hate for X3, though. Like, it's not a bad game. It's just another fun Mega Man game. Yeah, the enemy damage is, like, pretty brutal, and some of the boss fights are kind of stupid, but I mean, it's a fine game. See, that finished that one, but I still need one more. And I mean, I may as well grind here. Yeah, that's going to be a few minutes lost, but again, I don't think that really matters. It's not like I really am going to have time to do anything after this anyway. So it's not like this is taking up too much time that would have been a whole nother game, you know? That's what I want to avoid, is doing something that takes up too much time to where it's like, okay, I just could have straight up beaten another game while doing this. I think, though, after this game, I have one more SNES thing to try. I tried doing Super Mario Land yesterday, and that didn't work. Because my game crashed for some reason. Don't know why. So I might try that again. I mean, it crashed only 8 minutes in, and that 8 minutes in was nearly half the game. So I might try that again. But other than that, because I can always do Super Mario Land on the Game Boy Player on GameCube, rather than Super Game Boy, because I feel like it's an issue with my Super Game Boy, rather than my Mario Land cartridge, because I've beaten Mario Land, multiple times on an actual Game Boy with that same cartridge, so heck, I've even done it on Game Boy Player on the GameCube. So I doubt it's gonna be any sort of problem to... Or I don't think it's the cartridge, it might be the Super Game Boy. And if it is a problem with the Super Game Boy, then I can always try it again another time. But I think this is the last like game to do on a physical SNES. Others will be through different re-releases. So, kind of why I wanted to go and get this done, since I've done Kirby's Avalanche and Super Mario World. You know, I can just kind of bring out a different console after this. Oh, that was way easier than I thought it was. I only needed the... what, 2 sub-tanks? So, I'm glad I didn't go back and get the last sub-tank, because I didn't really need it. I do want to try and remember where the last one is. I feel like it's in Armored Armadillo stage. I just don't remember how you get it. Is it like you have to kill the first digging guy, and then like you go behind him, maybe? I don't know. But, and then obviously I didn't get the Hadouken either, so it wasn't a 100% playthrough. It was more so get how many... get as many upgrades so I can just beat the game, you know? And some games will be like that. That's why I kind of feel like maybe I could do Castlevania Area of Sorrow on the Game Boy Advance, but at the same time, if I'm not going for all the upgrades and everything, is that a viable game? That game, towards the end, can be pretty difficult. Although I do need to see, is that just for the true ending? If you get... like, if you don't have the secret things that... like, you get the true ending, then... no, because you would still go to the, like, Eclipse world, right? Even if you didn't have that. The only thing that does is it changes the ending, just the dialogue slightly. That's the only change to the good ending, I think. Or is the good ending just if you get all the souls? Is it not based on getting the Dracula powers? Because if you don't get the Dracula powers, if the game just ends when you beat Graham, then that might be viable. I think I could do that. Because really, it's just... I think it's just... it's just when you get to the Eclipse world, if you don't have a lot of the upgrades, that's just a really hard section of the game. I think everything before that is pretty easy. Some of the boss fights maybe can be a little hard. The death boss fight can be a little tricky. But then there's some boss fights that I don't think are that hard. The Legion's not that difficult, I don't think. I don't think Baylor's that difficult. So I don't know. It could be the Area of Sorrow is a viable game, but that's going to be a later one after I do some research and see if it is as easy as I think it's going to be, or if it's actually going to be a lot harder. If it's going to be too difficult, I'm not going to do it. At least not for a while. Because there's a lot of easier, shorter games I can do before then. Though I do need to look into X5, because if there is just the bad ending, and all you have to do is beat the intro stage, dude, I will do X5. But again, it has to be a satisfying conclusion to the game, like an actual, you could consider this beating the game. So if it just says game over, retry, that's not the ending of the game. That's just you got a game over, like Super Paper Mario. But if it says the end, gives you credits, and presents itself as this is the end of the game, just the bad ending of the game, then I would be perfectly fine with doing it. And even then, even if you can't, I don't know that X5 is that difficult to where I would need to only do it if I could do the bad ending. It's just the bad ending would make it a lot faster. But yeah, that is Mega Man X. That is game number 4 complete. And probably the only game I'm going to be able to do today. I don't go till later tomorrow and have a shorter shift. So, should be able to get a few more games done. But, yeah, 4 games in 2 days. So, keeping up with an average of 2 games per day. And at least for right now, that's going to be my goal, is to at least keep up with that. But we'll see what game I do next time.